Hi everyone, today we're going to be looking at whether we have found the top 3 candidates for 2020 as of right now. So as the data we're going to be looking at today is definitely mostly polling data that we'll be looking at. We'll be looking at mostly previous elections along with this 2020 to see whether the nomination is going to be either Biden, Sanders, or Warren. And not that it's going to be in particular Elizabeth Warren's going to win, or in particular Biden's going to win, or in particular Sanders is going to win. We're just analyzing whether anyone apart from those three is able to break out of this Democratic primary field, whether Kamala Harris can win, whether Buttigieg can win, whether Booker can win, whether Yang or Beto O'Rourke or Tulsi Gabbard or any of these other candidates do actually have a chance at pulling this thing off. So as we're going to be taking a look, at this 2016 data. And we're going to be taking a look at this date in that race. Where did the race stand? And then we're going to be taking a look at who eventually won that primary. We'll be looking at the 2016 Democratic. Today, I believe it is the 4th of September, so we're going to go ahead and find the 4th of September, which is obviously over here. So right now, Biden is at 30.4%. Warren in second place at 16.9%, Sanders at 16.3%, Kamala Harris 7.0%, Buttigieg at 4.6%, Booker at 2.5%, Yang at 2.4%, and O'Rourke at 2.3%. So, today we're going to be taking a look here. Where is September 4th? Here we go. So at this point, there we go. At this point, Trump was leading the pack there, 27.2%. Ben Carson was at 13.2%. Jeb Bush at 9.2%. Ted Cruz at 7.2%. And Marco Rubio at 6.2%. And they were kind of the top 5. And eventually we did see Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz break out, Jeb Bush continue to plummet, and it's going to be interesting to see whether that trend continues. So the person who eventually ended up being the nominee was ahead at this point in the 2016 primary. So Trump was leading at this point in the 2016 primary, and so that could be a good indicator for Biden. In second place, in the end, that was Ben Carson, then Jeb Bush, who crashed and burned. Ted could break out, but eventually Joe Biden's going to win anyway. So that's one way of looking at it. But then if we take a look at the 2016 Democratic primary, at this point, obviously, Hillary Clinton was in fact leading, so 2015 September 4th, there we go. Bernie Sanders was at 25.0%, Hillary Clinton at 49.2%. She was still solidly in the lead, and she eventually ended up winning that Democratic nomination there. So yeah, and then the next bit of data we're going to be taking a look at 2012 Republican primary. Whoops, there we go. If we find September, that's good enough. Rick Perry was actually leading there, and then Mitt Romney was in the second place position, followed by none other than Ron Paul, and then Michelle Bachmann, and then, people like Newt Gingrich and Herman Cain and people like that. And so that's going to be interesting as well. And at this point in the 2012 race, Mitt Romney was not leading. He was at 17.3%, and he eventually carried it by over 50%. And someone like a Rick Perry was in that first place pole position. And then after that debate where he forgot what the 3 agencies of government were that he would get rid of, he plummeted, and it seems like Herman Cain took his spot. And then everyone seemed to have a bit of moments in the sun. It was Rick Perry, and then Herman Cain, Newt Gingrich, Mitt Romney, and then Newt Gingrich, and then Rick Santorum, and then it eventually ended up being Mitt Romney in the end. So yeah, at this point, Rick Perry was leading, but as you can see, he was plummeting very easily, and some people rose up very quickly, and so anything can happen. In the next bit of data we're going to be taking a look at is 2008 Republican presidential nomination. So this was John McCain, Mike Huckabee, Ron Paul, Rudy Giuliani, and Mitt Romney. So at this point in the 2008 race, we could see September, there we go. At this point, Rudy Giuliani was in fact leading, the mayor from New York, and that's interesting because he didn't make it. You can see after he started to slip, and then right after Iowa, he slipped, crashed, and burned. And so it's going to be very interesting. And so, as you can see, one more bit of data. At this point in the 2008 primary, lead, and Barack Obama still ended up winning that primary in the end. And so the data's sort of inconsistent. From previous elections, we can see when there was many candidates, it ended up being sort of, everyone sort of had a moment in the sun, and with the exception of 2016, it was not the front runner who ended up winning. So this is from 2012. It was who was that? Rick Perry. If you take a look at not so crowded fields, we can see in 2016 Hillary Clinton winning, in 2008 on the Democratic side Hillary Clinton winning, and both of those elections have in common is because they're Democratic primaries. And so at this point, there's the crowded fieldness of the Republican Party, where oftentimes it's actually not the front runner who ends up winning. But then it does seem a bit like at this point there's a clear Biden is in first, followed by Warren and Sanders, followed by Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg, followed by Booker, Yang, and O'Rourke, followed by maybe I should put a separate tier for Gabbard, Castro, and Klobuchar, but I think I'm just going to lump all of those from Tulsi Gabbard onwards down to Joe Sestak, all of them in that same tier. And so it's clear that at this point, Biden is up 15 points. That's a size of fact, up by about 15 points, exactly 15 points to be exact. And so, or 14 points, and he ended up winning that one. And so at this point in time, it seems like Biden is the favorite. It does depend though. Warren could break out, Sanders could break out, but other than that, it seems like the field is sort of settled between those three. But it is going to be very interesting, to say the least. So that's it for today's video. So final conclusion, Biden is the favorite. Warren and Sanders could break through. I'll put Biden at 60% odds at winning the nomination, Bernie Sanders at 25% odds, Elizabeth Warren at 25. Actually, I'm going to increase Elizabeth Warren to 30 and put Bernie Sanders at 20, because Elizabeth Warren might be able to bring together Biden and Sanders voters as sort of a compromise between the two sort of extremes of the party. Sanders on the left, Biden on the right. Elizabeth Warren might be able to bring those in the middle, but you never know. I'm going to put 60% odds Biden's going to win, 27% Sanders will win, but I guess there's a 10% chance that someone else wins. At this point, it's hard to see. I'll put final percentages. Biden can be at 50%, Warren at 27%, Sanders at 23%, Kamala Harris 4%, Pete Buttigieg 2%, everyone else 4%. So that's sort of it where we stand at this point in time. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you have a great day. Thank you for watching, and good night.